From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the prize.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who've served to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Here, our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. Today, we are extremely excited to introduce our guests to the show, Rosella and Kenitra Scott. Rosella is a U.S. Army veteran, and Kenitra is a currently serving first sergeant in a medical recruiting company, and they are both the founders of Legacy Vanguard Scott Group, empowering leaders, elevating talent, and enhancing organizational culture for lasting business success. Rosella and Kenitra, welcome to our podcast, and thank you so much today to join us to discuss your journey from turning your dog tags into ownership. How are you all doing?
Great. Awesome. How are you doing today? How you all doing today?
Fantastic. So good to have you both on the show today.
No, I appreciate you all having us on here.
Yeah, and I know we were supposed to do this recording, I think, a few weeks ago, and as the Army has it, something came up with you being a first sergeant, as life happens in the Army, but we're super pumped to have you both on today to tell a little bit about your story and your journey. But before we get to that, could you just both tell us a little bit about yourselves and your military service?
Yeah. So again, thank you for having us a part of this platform. But my wife, she was excited when she got the invite about this, and I was equally excited. So it's this is the first podcast we'll be doing. So I love it. I'm a retired Army veteran, served 30 years. For 30 plus years in the Army. Started out as a field artillery soldier, military occupational specialty 13 Bravo. And then that transitioned over to be a cadre recruiter for the United States Army Recruiting Command. And I served in that position for about 22 years. So yeah, out of the 30 years, 22 years in Army recruiting. Charleston, South Carolina. I'm the big brother of two other sisters in my family. I think I'm the first one in my family, my immediate family, to serve in the military. So yeah, my journey has been a successful one. And after retiring in September of 2023, I actually transitioned over to still serve soldiers, but not just soldiers, other veterans. I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs as an HR specialist for recruitment and placement. So I recruit for nurses for the New Orleans VA hospital. So I just still could stay connected to the service members in that way to ensure that they get the quality care that's needed in those hospitals. And now, fortunately, I'm a business owner with my lovely wife here. Can't take all the credit. She's the one that sparked that engine for us to get the business started. It's because of her that we're here today. So hats off to her.
I'm Kenitra Scott. So I have been in the Army now a little over 20 years. I started in IT, so I was an information technology specialist. I didn't really like the job. And so I volunteered for drill sergeant, but the Army had other plans for me, decided I needed to be a recruiter. So I was like, why not? Went into recruiting. I liked it. I enjoy being out in the community and just being outside. So that's what I got from recruiting. And so I decided to convert. So now I'm like 11, 12 years in that I've been doing recruiting. So I've worked every level of recruiting. I've done enlisted recruiting. I've done medical recruiting. And now I'm working as a first sergeant of a medical recruiting company in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So we have 5 medical recruiting stations that are under us. And I'm also transitioning into retirement.
Awesome. And Rosella, are you still working part-time or with the VA at all, or did you give that up to pursue the business?
So the business, that's going to be the legacy. That's going to be long term legacy. My current position in HR world, that is my passion because I love to ensure that the veterans are being taken care of. And then eventually, as our business scaled to new heights and new levels, yeah, I'll probably take a scale back from my current profession as being an HR specialist. And because actually I'm using the skill sets, and I heard it on another platform about taking your current profession and perfecting your craft in your current profession to use it to help facilitate and build and thrive in your business. So it's a win-win for me.
Nice.
Kenitra, you're on the track to retirement. That transition and that path to retirement, what are some of the things that you have found beneficial to you in that journey?
My retirement date is April 2027. It hasn't been approved yet. I'm still waiting on the orders. But that is my retirement date. I'm speaking into existence. But I've been planning for retirement for, I would say, like 2, 3 years now. So everything I've been doing has been setting myself up for retirement. I knew that is what I wanted to do. And once I found my passion, I really, honed in on it and started doing all the things so that to set me up for success once I get out of the Army. But some of the resources that the Army provided, the services that they provide through TAP, I did Boots to Business. That's actually what sparked that interest because they offer a lot of services and you get to pick and choose which ones you go to. A lot of people were saying I should go to the Boost to Business, even if you don't plan on starting a business. Do Boost to Business, just see there's a lot of resources. And so I was like, okay, why not? I'll go see what they talking about. I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. So then I went to Boost to Business and it was a lot of good resources and it made me think like my husband and I, we have a lot of skills that we acquired just from being recruiters with marketing and public relations and being in the community and having to network. We already have that skill. We should use that skill. We both have background in leadership. And so came home and I was like, we should start a business. Let's do this. We can do this together. We have the skills. Like we know how to recruit. He does HR staffing with the VA. We've both been in leadership positions. We understand leadership. I'm also pursuing my certification in coaching, leadership coaching. And like we already have the skills. Why work for somebody else with the skills that we have? We should market our skills and use it for our benefit. That's how we ended up starting that. As well as the TAP resources, Veterans Women Ignite. There's like a program for veterans who are interested in going into business. I've taken advantage of that resource. So I've gone to their events. But there's a lot of resources that I don't know if they talk about it enough, all the resources that are provided to veterans and active duty service members who are transitioning or planning to transition that, they can tap into.
Is that what kinda helped with you thinking about retiring 2, 3 years ago?
Yes, it did. And I'm a planner by nature. So I'm already planning and thinking ahead, like, where do I want to be? I think at the time that he was retiring, I had just finished my master's in organizational leadership and I had decided that I wanted to be a coach. And so once I decided that's what I wanted to do, I had to start thinking about, okay, what's going to get me there? But what got me there was going through TAP and going through the classes. We had to do a gap analysis. Actually, I was proactive in
Yeah.
the classes and I actually used the gap analysis to figure out what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to go. And so it gave me a plan and it made me feel more confident in getting out. I felt more prepared as well.
And Rosella, any lessons learned from you on your transition out or things you would have done differently or anything?
I think for my transition, it was a little bit different. I say this because when I say tapped out, I was already at like the pinnacle of, okay, I can't go any higher. I already had in my mind way back when, at 20 years, I'm going to retire. Things happen, you change your mind, things of that nature. I had a supervisor long time ago. He was like, you do past 20, just take a year at a time, 1 year at a time and see what happens. And if you get to that point where you're not having any more fun, hey, submit your retirement paperwork and have a nice day. And I continue to have fun after 20 years. So that's why I stayed in a little bit longer.
Kenitra, you said it was going to TAP, Boots to Business, that really sparked the idea of building a company or starting a business. And when you were going through that, like what just sparked that idea for you? What was the catalyst as you're sitting in the class that you were like, found this business? And I know you said the gap analysis, but what was it about that made you say, hey, we need to start this business and I know that we can do it and we'll be successful?
I knew that, well, initially my goal was I'll just get a certification in coaching and then I'll go work for someone. But I kept hearing when I would go to events, people saying, well, you have these skills, and instead of you letting your skills work for you, you're giving it away to someone else. I knew also that I wanted to have flexibility, and I knew I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. So I wanted flexibility in my schedule. I didn't want to work a 9 to 5. We have the luxury to kind of to play with this business idea. We still have our like credentials and stuff to fall back on. So as far as the risk, I'm like, we could take this risk. We can do this. So I decided that, it would be beneficial for us to do that.
Julie and I are giving you a ton of north and souths because that's very much anchored in where we're at today. She's very close to being retired, but not wanting a 9 to 5, having ridden the bus to the Pentagon for a couple of years and watched the rat race firsthand and watch people very much older than me still riding the bus to the Pentagon. I knew what I didn't want to do. And I knew that I wanted the flexibility. We both have younger kids, so it's like we want to be there for the sporting events and taking them to school and picking them up and being involved.
All right.
And that sometimes is sacrifice, I think, when you're tied into a 9 to 5 with a lot of the opportunities after the military. I spent also 2 years in recruiting command as a company commander. And I often said that was the closest experience you could get in the military with running a business or operating a business or being assessed on how well you're running a business and you're doing the market analysis and you're getting into analytics and the lead generation, prospecting. All of the terminology is what's used in a lot on the business side. So
can you tell our listeners and followers what is Legacy Vanguard Scott Group and what do you all provide to the community?
I'm going to just summarize it. But with Legacy Vanguard Scott Group, we just have this philosophy of, in order for you to hire better, you have to lead better. And then you can also flip that around. In order for you to lead better, you have to be able to hire better. Mm-hmm. And I think with the concept that we have, it's a 2-tier fold. So obviously, me being somewhat of the HR specialist, I can focus on the functional piece for organization if they're trying to learn how to audit their team when it comes to, recruitment and placement. If there's anything dealing with labor relations, employee relations, I have those credentials to do that. And then with my wife going into the executive leadership coaching and training and development, which we both do, those are opportunities that we can present to help organizations bridge that gap of kind to identify or trying to identify what's that missing link or what's that missing lack of communication when it comes to your hiring practices as well as your leaders, because sometimes some of these really don't have a clue of what it takes to either source or prospect for, or even make sure that the interview process is correct or done correctly to ensure that you're hiring the best possible candidate to be a part of that team.
So our 3 efforts is HR staffing. We do leader professional development, and then we do one-on-one coaching, leader executive coaching.
Rosella, you hit the nail on the head at the very beginning when you were talking about the business, and you have to hire the right people to be successful. And when you don't hire the right people, then you're not going to be successful as a business owner. And that's not just as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, but also as as a leader of any organization, you have to have the right people underneath you that know what they're doing and how to do it. So I think what you all are doing, is impactful. And with the technical expertise that you both have and what you've seen, and as Matt mentioned, being recruiters, and then now you work in HR, the VA, like you understand that process and you understand how to build teams for an organization that makes it impactful for them to be successful as a team. What does it look like for you in terms of client acquisition? Like, how are you guys reaching out to folks to bring them in to help them through this? And, how's that process been going for you, and is it being successful?
Well, right now we're getting some success when it comes to the HR portion. I do a lot of business development, reaching out to people. I have a few individuals that I'm currently working with, sort of like a subcontractor. They give me requisites that they need to have filled, and I do my piece of sourcing to find those individuals.
Mm.
But it's the follow on piece of, do they meet the qualifications
Mm-hmm.
for that position? Or it's with hiring managers that I've seen here lately when I'm recruiting for these different agencies, is the individual that on paper they meet all the criteria they're looking for, but it's one of those things where the hiring managers, it's either you want to hire this person because this is what you need right now, versus this is the person that I want.
Mm.
And based upon the person that I want, I'm willing to invest in getting them to the level that I foresee them being within the organization, compared to, okay, you got a degree, you have a little bit of work experience, but can you do X, Y, Z for my organization? Well, you have that gap. And it's like, am I willing to put that investment to either fill that gap and get you where we need to be, and then moving forward, once my wife, she gets that certification with Georgetown University, leadership coaching courses that she's going through, then we'll be dual-hatted of doing some business development. Because there are a lot of agencies out there that I've found, but I have not reached out to them yet, because I don't want to set us up where we have clients that need us and want us. I want to make sure that my wife has that expertise underneath her belt for
Yes,
extra
that
credibility.
credential,
Yeah.
yeah. It's important that I get that credential for me, for our business, for our brand, that I have that credential. So I am working on getting that in the process. And we've been doing I've been doing some pro bono coaching, which also helps with me completing my program. So that way, we're hoping by next year that we'll be fully operating as a business.
One of the things that a lot of the guests will bring up on our podcast is being able to take, again, a lot of those experiences, qualities, certifications that we had in the military, and then use that, translate it right into the civilian language, because it is a little bit of a different language on the civilian side. My spouse works on the corporate side. So a lot of the things you're saying, I'm hearing from her as she's being recruited and transitioning jobs. And one of the observations I've had is what a lack of leadership a lot of these organizations have. And having things like a mission statement and common company values or corporate values, things that everyone should understand within the organization. And I think back to the recruiting point, being deliberate and knowing who you want, and like you said, who you want perhaps now, and that might be okay sometimes to fill a seat, but also like, who's going to really perform and grow in the organization and have buy-in in the organization. But I love what you guys are doing, and the two-pronged approach of, we can fill the seat, but we can also help the organization if they are lacking in certain areas. Maybe it's a training deficiency, maybe it's a communication issue, whatever. But being able to do a holistic approach to all of that and say, you got the recruiting thing right, or you're hiring the right people, or maybe you're not, but there's other gaps here in how you analyze it. So what would be your approach kind of going into an organization? I always think of the Bobs in Office Space, if you've seen that movie. But when they go in and they start doing the assessment on like who to fire and who to retain, but like what would be your approach going into a company?
Well, if I was to go into a company, the first thing I would want to do is just do like you just said, an assessment, sit back, observation. And of course, getting feedback with the organization because it's on their dime of how long they would want me, what they would allow me to do, and just do an observation of, the movers and the pushes and the chases, things of that nature. An analysis, like a trends analysis, to see the ebbs and flows of, how productive time frame. Because, everything is sometimes the seasonality of the how the organization thrives to get to that next point. Is there are certain months where your performers are just not clicking? Like I just use recruiting as an example. We all, since the inception of recruiting, we know we come the bathtub months. We know first quarter is always a difficult month because it's holidays going on. And does anybody really wants to, join the Army or the Marines or whatever branch of service during this time frame? So taking that kind of mindset and shifting it into the corporate world, okay, what months are you usually have these downward sparrows? And if things are going down, what are the number one reasons this is happening? Is it during the time that you all are looking to promote people or to give people bonuses and people are not getting incentivized for certain things that they're performing well at? And this may be the reason why you're losing people, which might be the reason why you're taking a dip in production and performance within your organization. And then look at ways of, okay, so now that we have identified this, what can we help you all put in place to prevent that from happening? We have been able to work in certain positions where we had to oversee operations for several different companies and organizations and have to give them an assessment of, this are the things you're doing well at. This is the things that you might need some improvements, or these are the things like you're not quite there, but if you make some minor adjustments, those are things that I foresee us doing as we continue to progress in our profession as entrepreneurs for the business.
As you guys have been building this business and you're looking towards the future with you both being retired and taking the business to new heights and where you want to see it, what do you see as your current biggest challenge and then your biggest challenge as you move the business forward to scale it and to move forward?
I would say, I guess right now it would be the organizations. What organizations are we going to work with? Just with me transitioning through into retirement, we're trying to focus on that and position ourselves in the new area that we're planning to move to, and making sure that we build our reputation and our network there in the area, because right now we're online. So we're trying to do both right now. Right now we're not trying we're not trying to scale too much right now. So we're still kind of in the developing phase of the business. But still offering pro bono coaching for those who want it. And he's doing the HR staffing too as well, before we commit to anything big right now.
We're crawling, and we're slowly starting to pick up pace because she's seen the light at the end of the tunnel. She's been fortunate enough to go to all these events and get the information that she needs to build and hone her craft. And then of course she brings it back to me to do additional research. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I like this. Let's capitalize on this and let's see what happens.
I know you said you're in the crawl phase of the business, but I really appreciate you guys reaching out and coming on our podcast, because we don't get a lot of people to come on our podcast that are starting their businesses. We have a lot of people who come on our podcast who have been in business for a while, and to hear how you all are starting your business, how you're doing it, what sparked the idea, why you're starting the business, I think is very beneficial for our listeners and followers out there, because turning your dog tags into ownership isn't just an overnight thing. It takes time. It takes the grind. It takes, both of you coming together, a family, figuring out, okay, what does this look like? How do we do it? So talking about some of those things, I really appreciate you guys open up and doing that, because I do find that very beneficial for those who are thinking about getting into entrepreneurship. And what you said, Kenitra, about boots to business, right? Like, just spark that thing in your mind. And that's what we hope for our podcast as well, as it helps those people who are thinking about entrepreneurship to hear a nugget or hear something and be like, oh, wait, I could do that, right? Like, I could start my business, help my neighborhood, help my community, help America with that. So thank you all for doing that. And I think before we get to our last two questions, is there anything we did not ask you all today that you would like to share with our listeners and followers?
Most recently, since we've been going through this entrepreneur stuff, and it just dawned on me, I like to tell people, if you served in the military more than 4 years, believe it or not, you are a business. You just don't know it. You just have to sit back, analyze yourself, do an assessment of yourself, and like, you know what, the skill sets that I have, how can I utilize it? Is it either going to be I go work for somebody, and if not, what can I do to exploit what I have to be my own business?
Yeah.
You
Right.
just got to know how to put the pieces together and figure out, is the niche that I have, can it benefit somebody else, and can I get uh some type of incentive, or
Right.
can I get paid to do it? And if the answer is yes, I say go for it. If there are people out there like that, want to have that business mindset, before they jump into it, make sure you get you a mentor.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
You have to have a mentor.
And there's so many resources for veterans that I don't think that veterans know about and that are put out that we talk about for veterans. Like there's free mentorship for veterans through what is it?
Score.
Yeah, Score, Boost the Business, and you go through that, and then you're able to do other programs to help with scaling your business. Depending on where you are in your business, there's programs for all of it. So I would say definitely take advantage of those resources.
The reason Dog Tags Ownership was created, why Julie had the idea, was to be a platform to build a community, and it's happening, and we're seeing it, and it's tangible. It's not just like, hey, we have a really good idea and maybe this will work out. It's working out. I was listening to the Daily Stoic this morning, and it was about Teddy Roosevelt's speech, The Man in the Arena. But it's about being the person and not being a critic. You have to change your mindset, I think, when you go into business ownership, and block out the critics and block out, because there's not a lot of people that are doing what you're doing. So there are mentors out there, but getting the right one. So now Julie's gonna tell me get to my question. So I listen, my passion's real estate, investing in real estate, managing it. So those are the podcasts and books I read. Is there a book or an audiobook, something that you would recommend to our listeners that helped you both out? Or maybe you each have your own book or podcast or something that you'd recommend?
Telebrand. We listen to that podcast. That just kind of it gives you information about tips and things about starting a business and things you should be looking for and how you can market yourself when it comes to that. A book that I listened to is Grit by Angela. I can't think of the last name. But it's a good book for when she talks about grit, it's talking about it's that extra thing that people have in them that gets them, that motivates them, or that drive that gets them to be successful. Basically, it's inspirational.
I think his name is Tim Grover. He was Michael Jordan's personal trainer and Kobe Bryant's. He wrote a book called Relentless.
Okay. Hey, you're only allowed, I think you're only allowed to have one book. So is that your one book?
That'll be my one book. It's Relentless: From Good to Great to Unstoppable by Tim Grover.
Got it.
Relentless.
So our last question of every episode, Admiral William McRaven authored the book, Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. So do you all make your bed every morning?
I am the bed maker. I make the bed every morning.
Who made it this morning?
Okay, you made this one. At 99.999% of the time.
Yeah, he is.
I think we're wrapping up. So we just want to thank you both for being here. And I'll just dovetail on what Julie said earlier. It's great having folks on here that are in the sort of infancy of the business starting, because we've had a handful of folks on here, but it's good to have those conversations for, I think, our listeners, because We also have people that have, had businesses or several businesses for decades. And that can be a lot to take in at times because there's so much to cover. So it's good, I think, to, again, have the variety that we have on this podcast with folks that are starting out, that are 5 years in, that are 30 years in. And again, I think you have a business with an approach to problem solving. You always have to have an issue or problem to solve. I think that's why businesses exist. And I think you all are going to, again, have plenty of work, plenty of clients, and be extremely successful in this endeavor. So thanks for being on today.
Military One Percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, Dog Tags the Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We're always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military One Percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn those dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest.